brothers and sisters, I wanted to speak about a universal constant that is acknowledged by Western sorcerers and spoken on, but it's never adhered to. I've managed to learn about this in the Tower of Secrets with the being known as Illkeserod, Lady of the Dark Akashic, concerning all forms of sorcery and its secrets. She had told me the minute you adhere to the Western idea of ascent and access towards any path of spirituality, as the United States or Western culture base their success solely on capitalist ideals, when everything about your spiritual ascent becomes nothing more than a mere business in every aspect, that you have succeeded in only failing. Now it's good to sell your services to your community, but I've seen greater organizations endlessly promote themselves for years being nothing but glorified salesmen, and podcasts suffering spiritual deaths over and over and over, to never come back from the theoretical practice. They want podcasts, they want fame and social media presence. Greed, ego, the desire, and want for validation is why most sorcerers, or spiritualists in general, are so weak today. I mean, look at the Temple of Mergerai. We will attempt to stay in our own lane, yet we constantly see people who have this need and want for validation. It has nothing to do with ascent or spirituality. It's similar to when I would teach Quran, I have to deprogram and de-westernize them from enslaving religions, doctrines, to escape the pitfalls of Western occultism, so people can humble themselves before the law, to get a feel and understanding of how they work and how you work best to serve them. The West itself runs off of the promise of the American dream, the instant gratification with a little bit of work, social validation as well. Black magic isn't a force that wants to be seen or known. In Western occultism, when they turn it all into a rock star business, they're trying to become famous in a way. You know, the term of a professional black magician is amusing to those of us that are real, because you're connected to beings on another spectrum of sorcery. You're going to inherit their traits. It's similar to where if you're called to Varan, if you're being initiated and ridden by the law, it's going to change your perspective. It will change your emotions. It will change everything that you are. You'll have if you're working with entities with a fiery temperament and their mindset, you're going to inherit it. If you work with more peaceful or passive entities, you will inherit those traits. Western occultists have this idea that you aren't allowed to feel anything other than business or work culture. So they've been consumed by a false doctrine of greed. They can't truly live. This is why sorcerers today are so hindered, because they get used to the fake mask that gets presented by Western occultists speaking subversively of themselves. When I teach my students, they're usually thrown off because I speak without the westernized bullshit that they're used to. I have to tell people, when you come here, you know, we're not going to, hold you to the fake standard of living or speaking. Me being a minority, I will not adapt to that specific level of weakness or, code switching for the sake of fucking PR and shit like that. That's subjugating yourself. If a teacher is willing to do this to you, they are a con man. They're trying to reach into your pockets if they're only there to coddle you. Sorcerers are not entertainers. You shouldn't even consider yourself an influencer either. So if you come here as well in the Temple of Measure, you have to come correct. No one's going to tolerate disrespect nor their spirits, because people are online. They often forget how a black magician needs to operate. If and when you see the signs to receive it, you need to unplug from social media. Let your spirits answer bullshit drama from the envious. Evolve. You need to rethink the idea of spiritual ascent and success. Even if your enemies are thinking you're losing and some dumb shit like that, only you need to acknowledge your secrets and your power. Let your faith in your spirits bring you to that temple of success. That's the only way you will receive it. I've come to find out that, if sorcerers didn't suffer from the distraction and traps of the modern day, such as YouTube and the internet, thinking that it's the end-all, be-all to Gnosis. I mean, look at EA Coetting, for example. Failed YouTube. You have to see internet as a necessary evil, but never completely rely on it. If you keep your secrets and your magical knowledge to yourself, and you're constantly only seeing competition like he did, you will never find Geonosis. They spread the idea that whoever has the most knowledge or the most subscribers on YouTube or videos is the most powerful. You get people like Eli Mercury or EA Coetting. This is a delusional deception sent forth by an overinflated ego. You weaken what you channel if the gift is unappreciated. I refer to them as almost spiritual drifters. My brothers and I refer to them as boomerang students. They will cast your secrets away for other information, the next best thing that's been regurgitated from one cyclical pattern to another, diminishing the power of spiritual ascent and Gnosis itself. It's why silence is golden is the most powerful piece of knowledge people could channel. If you keep your secrets to yourself, everything is not meant to be shared. Same with your goals or success from a Western standpoint. Everything they do is work culture and for validation or ego. I mean, look at how my own enemies, Crack Shack Christian felt. He stated I didn't have a single book in my name and all that other dumb shit. Though I contributed to Mayor Ryan grimoires such as R13 and several others when I went under the name of Alchemy, the Awoken. Then he proceeded to have an anorexic meth addict dance on him in a trap, what looks like a fucking trap house in a basement to prove something. The very idea, the fact he felt he needed to validate or prove anything to me revealed only insecurity and weakness. Only a trifling childish incel with mommy issues would see that as some form of flex. Seeing your own woman as a prop. You get led on like a dog on a leash. You took the bait. This is why Western practitioners are the most manipulated, because they're reactionary and are constantly being hit with subliminal programming. And, I kind of blame Western TV a little bit with their product placement is very insidious. It'll be a truck commercial that says if you don't have an F-150, you know, you're not gonna have any security in your life. These are the type of brain dead individuals why you see on certain platforms regurgitate this nonsense. You shouldn't chase a YouTube check or validation when it comes to spirituality. TikTok, as well as destroying an entire generation of spiritualists and black magicians. I've noticed a cyclical pattern with Western magicians who are on these platforms. They consistently steal from each other. They regurgitate the work of other channels. Their goal is no longer Gnosis, but being glorified entertainers. I'm one of the few who will ever tell you that if you are searching for Gnosis or apotheosis jumping into every current via social media, and your primary goal is to immediately teach it, you will never find it. Most of the people spend their time on these social media entertaining the masses and winding up social media slaves. If your only goal is generic validation, you will never find your notice. Lady Illkeserod of the Tower of Secrets once told me when I first walked this path is that when you understand the power of secrets, you would never know defeat, but ascendance of the soul. Now to this day, I understand why she is the Lady of the Dark Akashic and the leader or tower head of dark enlightenment. If you learn the spiritual power of your own soul's secrets, you'd understand to keep them hidden. Every obstacle or enemy I've ever had thinks they know my secrets, or even the form of sorcery I use. I think the most common is that I only use Regurgitated sorcery. If you keep that spiritual well enclosed, your spirit, your state of being will always be in a state of power and never in jeopardy. You have to know to decipher what to share, what to channel, and what to keep guarded, so your knowledge is not nullified in its power. It's a clever trap of the modern age to actually fall for this, and you have to be able to see through it. The power of secrets is so well known except to the entitled and lazy armchair magicians. This is why many in spiritual covens or organizations have understood a long time ago to share the knowledge with the people that value its power. You don't give the most powerful work to children or the ungrateful who don't understand the alchemy of secrets. I want you to understand each thing you channel has its own form of energy current, almost like an egregoric thought construct. And it's up to you to decipher it and see it. I've seen talented magicians who are in our order today who have truly matured and understand not to immediately ruin the power of what they've been given by displaying it or putting it on a blog or instantly putting it on a YouTube so they can be seen as some form of guru. The most powerful sorcerers and vocal I've ever met for years didn't share their knowledge or put it in books. This is why magical traditions such as Voodoo were designed against its oppressors, its secrets kept, and thus the power would always remain. The people that are chasing YouTube checks today tend to embellish a lot of their experiences. This is the fact because most of them are trying to sell you something. It's no different from when those who maintain and practice Voodoo watched shock value magic from colonizers and false authors claiming to know it and writing about it in books with their own embellishments. In fact, ever since E.A. Coetting, I think black magicians and spiritualists have been weakening their secrets and their magic because they're trapped in a cycle of giving away their power and feeding a system that was designed to corrupt spirituality. If you're just as a Bokor or shaman understands that every plant is host to a spirit and it spreads its influence, one must understand that every human technological advance has been led by a different spirit, as well as things such as YouTube or TikTok or social media. They're feeding a very specific entity which is weakening sorcerers. They water down their knowledge due to public opinion and how it might be seen, how they might be seen as crazy, and are moving further and further away from Gnosis. Black magicians will acknowledge this concept of secrets, but never follow it. Instead, trapped in a cycle of endlessly plagiarizing or stealing work from one another, even videos and the words of others. Power and Gnosis is had when you starve the ego. Magicians are not content creators, but gods and goddesses in training, discovering the true will of the self, discovering the true self. I have watched sorcerers and magicians place a heavy importance on education, but do not understand the basic alchemy of magical secrets. And its silence. Most black magicians today have been actually programmed to see YouTube and TikTok as the end goal of Gnosis. They've been so programmed, in fact, that when you don't post a video about yourself every day or every week, you're all of a sudden doing bad or you're cursed. These are the idiotic effects of government worship, social media, and knowledge gathering. It's something they've been worshiping for a very long time, to the point to where people believe today that they are entitled to the lives of others. This is why we have Karens and shit today. Even in magical communities, most magicians have decimated the power of their own works with how-to videos instead of spreading knowledge and wisdom. One of the ways I personally will test potential students is I'll give out specific rights, and if I feel that that individual regurgitates it on YouTube or TikTok, it actually shows me I wouldn't be able to trust them with more powerful works. It shows me I can't give out magic that's hundreds of years old and is valued by someone, going through an identity crisis and moving to every path they possibly can. Me and my brothers will refer to people like this as boomerang students. You haven't found your true will yet. And I believe it was actually Cain said, think of it as martial arts. The lesson wouldn't be grass if you're jumping from 10 different dojos, trying to learn a different form of martial arts. The teaching is incomplete. So what I want everyone to take away from this is to deprogram yourself from seeing YouTube, TikTok as the end-all, be-all to Gnosis. See the weaknesses of it. See the weaknesses of giving your channel to work, which was meant for you to ascend, and how it affects your personal Gnosis. I had called on Lady Illkeserod of the Dark Akashic recently, and she had posed to me a question that I had remembered from years ago. And she followed up with this specific knowledge. She said, would you rather have everything you ever desired in secret, or prefer temporary fame and be powerless and expressionless? So I meditated on this, on her very laced wording, as there was wisdom and visions in it, when I called on my God self to help me interpret the knowledge in her laced wording. And in her words, I saw that so-called influencers or celebrities have their throats bound. They truly can't express themselves with things like YouTube or the platforms that they've given themselves to. It's why the God self within is subjugated. The truth self, like I stated, God does its best work unseen. It is a part of a magical world in which it works unseen on a different frequency. I see how the mundane has twisted the very idea of spirituality. Or if you're not feeding all of these mediums, they think you know nothing, or you're constantly seeking validation. The best I've seen of a representation of this was Jordan Peele's Twilight Zone in episode 1. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. It's worth your time. It will help you understand giving away your secrets and yourself. This is why with the Temple of Measurai, I don't chase YouTube checks like all my slanderers or enemies. I always watch that because I understand how gods must operate in this world, unseen. So I will pose to you the same question that Lady Illkeserod posed to me. If you reached your Gnosis or godhood tomorrow, knowing you could never speak on it, you can never make displays with your abilities, would you sacrifice the human need for validation and ego to maintain that state? You heard me speak on this briefly during the anathema videos of gods living within society. Would you be willing to sacrifice human desire? This is